Hello, fellow AFL enjoyers. We're back in the original studio, the OG.
Back to normality.
Back to a bit of normality for now. Yes.
Carlton's winning. That's normal again.
Yeah.
North lost again. It's normal.
Everything's
normal.
That's normal. That is
We're
normal.
just going to have a very normal round review where everything normal happens.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of normal, we'll jump into St Kilda versus Bulldogs, and St Kilda being bad, Ross Lyon, questionable coaching. It's all normal there.
Angry press conferences.
Angry press conferences. So but back to the status quo there.
Well, he talks about, they're rebuilding and they take a long time to rebuild, but I don't know, man. Is he even playing any of the young players? Like Travaglia is playing, but if you look at this list, that doesn't look like a rebuild list to me, mate.
I think the Viking was suspended. Flying Viking, Alex Tyree. He'll be back in. Apparently had a really good game in the BFL, so he'll be in. But look, Doggies, let's just give them the credit first. Darcy back. Got a few cheapies early on, I must say. But, man, he's unstoppable.
Yeah. Nah, you can just see it with him. He's already, I think he's already the best key forward in the game. Is he the best player in the game?
Probably.
It's
most unique, at least.
Yeah, well, and that's what it is. It's the uniqueness. There's no one else who can perform like that. The closest thing to that level as a key forward is Stilthorpe. But Darcy's just that level above just because of the length. And, maybe it's the way they use him as well.
The crazy thing is as well with him, you see the King brothers, Thilthorpe, these are big boys, especially the King brothers, who are sort of body-wise, he's probably the closest to them. They don't have the strength that he has, even though you look at him and you think he's not developed. But his core strength and just literally everything he does is mechanically perfect.
Yeah. And the fluidity of his movements.
It's fluid, precise, and then strong. You can't knock him off it like you can a King brother.
It's
crazy.
It's like the AFL's version of Wemby, to be honest with you. This is probably as close as we'll ever get to a Wemby-like player, where it's just like a dude who, in a land of giants, is, athletically and, physically and, just the technique-wise, just above everyone.
Until his brother comes into the scene.
True. Hey, I think his brother's going to be drafted next year. Who knows how good he's going to be, but, already they've got one in Sam, so I don't think Bulldogs they're not putting too much eggs in that basket, I'm guessing.
Is Darcy the little pick-me-up that the Dogs need to kind of fight their way into the top 8?
Yeah.
Surely, man.
Mate, I think he goes into any team and helps them get into the A. You know what I mean?
I've been saying this the last few weeks where the Dogs, I think if you ask fans without showing them the ladder, if they haven't looked at it in a while, everyone will be like, oh, Dogs are good this year. And then you actually look at the ladder, they're out of the 8.
Yeah.
Although they do have a really healthy percentage. So when they win big like they did on Thursday night. But when they lose, it's too often and they can't get a run going for long enough, as long as you sort of think they are. So that's probably the last team, in my opinion, that can actually make the 8. Not to jump to that story too soon, but I can't see
the Saints won't be part of that conversation for the rest of the year, surely.
Correct.
That's finally their one and done.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dogs just feasted on the scoreline. Every single player just looks like they had the game of their life. So the Dogs can do that, and when they do that, they look fantastic. And every single one of their midfielders gets involved in the goals, like Sanders too, Kennedy too. Richard's always good for a goal. So Freya, all of these play. Trelaw, I mean, that's a feast. The only one that didn't play well this game was Bont.
Yeah, well, he got tagged by Windhager, and they didn't give up on that tag. Even 50 points down, they're like, we're just going to shut down Bont still.
That's the funniest thing to me. I know they were saying it during the commentary, and fans online are all like, look, at a certain point, just admit that this isn't impacting the game. Try something, go a bit more attacking in the middle. Yeah. No, that's the thing. I think that's precisely the Saints' issue. They don't have anyone on ball that will take the game over from an offensive point of view. Steele's a gun player. Sinclair can go in there, but he's not the on-baller 24/7.
Well, he's probably their most dynamic midfielder.
Yeah, but he's not a full-time on-baller like a Steele is, right? So they are really just lacking that. Is it a Philippou eventually? That's probably what they hope for.
Yeah.
They've drafted Travaglia for a long-term mid. But again, he's more of a defensive first kind of guy, in my opinion. So they clearly need that. And they are trying. Obviously, they've thrown the money at Callahan and pretty much everyone. But
Tom DeConning.
Yeah, well, they might as well go extra big then. But they just lack the ability to match up. So I guess the tag just was justified. But how do you match up with that Dogs midfield as the Saints midfield? You can't.
No, you can't. You can't. Because you tag Bont and then it's you got to deal with the class of Richards.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the endeavour of dudes like, Kennedy and Libar and even, I don't know if Fraser's still going in there, but
yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And the funny thing is, you put Riley Sanders, who's a young player, into the Saints midfield, or this current one they played, he'd be Steele, McRae, Sanders. That'd be their core on ball unit.
100%.
Like there's no one even close to tackling him, and he's on the outer at the Dogs midfield. So it's actually kind of nuts. But
and this is whilst they got rid of McRae and they got rid of Smith. You know, those two dudes both left, and they still have this amazing amount of depth, which I think Kennedy helps. Kennedy
and even from years ago, Lipinski, they've just had years now of not needing certain players and getting like Caleb Daniel wasn't an on-baller, but the depth of the team's crazy. It does beg the question though, how good can they get? Can they do this sort of stuff to a really good team?
And that's what they need to do, because like we talked about it last week. They haven't really done it. Now, like you look at the next I think the next 3 games are relatively easy games, but then they do versus Adelaide in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. That's good. Like that's a game that they got to pencil in. Like, all right, we need to beat a top 4, 5, 6 team, because otherwise, you know, when we get to the finals, we're just gonna get smashed. So yeah,
you're right about the depth though. Like even someone like Jamara, apparently he's back at training. I don't expect him to play. I don't know what that situation is, but you think about a talent like that just sitting on the sidelines. Another player like Cody Waitman, who's a gun small forwards out for the whole year.
Did you hear?
They do have some players on the sidelines.
He's had like another infection to his knee, the poor guy, man.
Yeah,
under the knife again. That's
crazy,
crap.
man.
So
that's really bad.
Hopefully he gets better soon. But yeah, Sainers, look, I think this week there's going to be a lot of changes. The talk is like, Tyru's in, Philippu's in, like a bit of excitement.
Darcy
Wilson back. So there's a bit of excitement with their younger players, which will be good for them. And they'll play Collingwood, who, look, they've got nothing to lose. You know, no one expects them to even get close. So if they can come out, Saints are capable of having a hot start. Like a Higgins gets a few early ones, Butler. So if they can start putting the pressure on early, I'm not suggesting they'll win, but it's a good opportunity to bounce back with very little to lose.
Their fans will be seriously outnumbered, that's for sure.
Bad.
Yeah, look, Ross has taken an L this week with North getting the money and like pretty successful trip out west, because he criticised it more than most, saying like, get your house in order sort of thing, rather than doing that. It's like, well, you know what, man, you could probably use a trip or two like that, man.
Yeah, no,
their crowds have been abysmal this year. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll move into the heist of the round, the Hawthorn heist, managing to get the points and run against Adelaide. I think the one thing that you mentioned this in the group chat, Dino, and I think it's so correct. The AFL demanding that Hobart have a roof. Justified. This game on its own justified it, like the whole thing, because the weather was disgusting at Launceston. It was just a yucky game between two, usually very clean and entertaining teams. All of a sudden, we ended up Hawks versus Adelaide, should be the game of the round, 47-44.
This is the thing. You don't want to invest in the team and then not have a stadium to at least fill the people who would be willing to go, which would be double or triple that were at this game. And then you go, and then the brand is like this every week for every home game. That's not an advantage. No. You can't possibly play good football in that weather. So,
like the Suns have the dewy conditions and the Tassie have the shit conditions. I don't know, have the cold conditions.
Plus the night game too, like apparently it was their first Friday night game ever there. Look, probably a good idea to not have a game in winter at night in Launceston. Like no offense, but like, it made for a really scrappy game. Certain players thrived in it, like a Dylan Moore's, a couple of those more bull-like players.
Probably had his first good game of the year, Dylan Moore.
You're telling me, mate, he's on my draft team. I've been waiting.
Mate, look, that was his first good game, and it was a top game, man. That was a really good game. Like the 13 tackles from Dylan Moore, finally getting, I think it's just, they needed that, the Warple, day type replacement of a guy who can go in and get his tackles.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, it was possible only because the ball was moving so slowly. He could get to each contest. So he'd be running up the wing between the half forward flanks, and just every contest he was there.
Yeah.
In a normal game where the ball's moving faster, he can't possibly physically get to all contests. So
True.
But no, look, you mentioned the highs. Like Adelaide last week, everyone's saying, well done to them. They found a way to win. They didn't deserve it. I mean, you always deserve to win, but like they robbed it last week. And then this week, similar, different, but same sort of thing. So I guess like overall, their fans will probably be thinking like, okay, we played two pretty good teams. We took 4 points. Could have had none, could have had 8. So it is what it is.
True. Yeah, no, I guess you sort of take that, let's be fair, but
it's just a game where it was obviously open to anyone, but it was just whoever was going to take their chances. And in the end, the Hawks kind of stood up in those moments. But I mean, the amount of misses. I mean, the conditions don't help. But key forwards in Adelaide, like Walker 0 goals 3. I think Fogarty 0 goals 3 as well. I mean, they take those chances back. Rochelle 0-2.
I think between
Fogarty 0-1. Did the Keys even kick a goal?
That's what I'm saying. I think they had 0 goals 8 between them. I read something like that. So they just couldn't be efficient. Obviously, a few of those should have been goals, but
this might have been a game where you look at the weather forecast and you go, you know what, Tex have a week off. We'll go managed on Tex. You know what I mean? This probably would have been the opportunity.
Yep.
He played,
yeah, he did. They are quite a tall forward line. They've been tall all year, so yeah, maybe a smaller look would have benefited them this game.
Yeah, I got to say, a player that I was really impressed with, and I think he's been a little bit under the radar. I think did he get his he got it? Did he get it last week? The Rising Star nom, Dan Curtin.
Yes.
Or was it this week?
I think he got it last week.
Yeah, no, you can see it with him, man. Like I think he's playing as like a tall winger, and he's just got class, man.
Yeah,
you can see that he's not really a key position like, you know, they were talking about, you know, in the draft process. And something that you mentioned in the draft process, that he's a dude who can play as a midfielder, maybe be sort of like an interceptor and this and that, you know. But I like the way he goes about it, to be honest with you. I really rate Kurt.
And he showed some good hands when no one did. Some really key marks. You're like, oh, it was refreshing to see someone actually mark the ball.
Exactly.
So no, credit to him.
Yeah, it's curious to see where he ends up position-wise, you know, assuming he stays long-term in Adelaide, you know, what the position's going to be.
I like him as an interceptor that can sort of, like a Blakey, but he's even better in the air than Blakey, but less dash.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably doesn't have that type of speed.
Less dash, but same sort of role. Like he's like the ball mover, interceptor, sort of leader. Something like that, maybe.
Sissels type role.
Yeah.
No,
and like Sicily, he could go forward too. So,
well, he might play different roles throughout his career. That's typically what happens for these swingmen. Like, it's as needed, and if he stays his whole career at Adelaide, you know, they'll need him in the forward line and they'll need him in the back line at different stages of his career.
True.
So that versatility is important.
Yeah. Another player that did well for the Hawks, Impey. He I talked about him last week going into the forward line, and then this week it was just like, nah, we're keeping him half back. He provided a lot of drive. Like I think what's his meters gained? That must be huge. 750. So dude was really progressing the ball forward, and you know I think he's a really good speaker actually as well. Like they talked to him post game this week, and I think last week as well. Man's such a what's the word?
Eloquent.
That's the one I'm looking for. So exactly what I'm not. Broken talk. So yeah, shout out to him, man.
It is funny when we're impressed by AFL footballers that can talk.
Look,
how was the game, mate? Yeah, I was right.
Exactly right.
We kicked some goals.
Credit where credit's due. Well spoken, man.
Hey, on to this next game.
Yeah,
the key forward action. If you're a man who loves key forwards taking marks and kicking goals, this was the game for you.
Look, I'm more of a medium forward, man.
You are.
Medium myself.
Logan Morris kicked 5 as well. It's all right.
Nah, he's a key, mate. He's a key forward. Logan Morris, he's a gun, man.
Morris 5, Hogan 6, Cadman 5.
Yeah.
And throw in Cal Brown with 3, just for good measure.
That's what was Cadman's career before? It would have been 3, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, let's say 3, maybe
4 max, yeah.
Bro, 19 disposals, 13 marks, 5 goals. What a game.
5 contested marks. For Cadman. That is crazy.
And he flushed a few from 50. Like, they were nice goals too. They weren't easy shots.
Yeah.
Well, they were super accurate, the Giants. Lions 18 points, won the world.
It's becoming a bit of a problem for the Brizzy team. But look, to be honest with you, I think the only thing that makes me concerned about Brizzy is the fact that they lost, like, arguably their best defender, right? And I think I've said it before that I think he's Jack Payne. He's the he's the best, second best defender, if that makes sense. So if we're gonna just say Harris Andrews, you know, is the best one, which I think is fair to say, he, like, of the second best defenders, he's probably the best out there. And I think I feel like you've talked about it a few times, Georgie. He locks down Charlie Curnow. Yeah, he can lock down a player.
He's lost very few one-on-ones this year, like only like 2 or 3 one-on-ones in 30.
Yeah, and he's always taking, you know, the big boys, and then it leaves Harris Andrews, you know, on a player, you know, the second best key forward, which helps Harris Andrews with his game. That's the only thing that really gets me concerned. But other than that, it's like they're having a bad period. I will say that. But
yeah. Well, I don't know who their replacement is too, because in the game, their solution was Hipwood at times.
Oh, that's probably Gardner.
It's got to be someone else, probably a Gardner.
Yeah, Duday as well. I don't know if he's ready to play. Yeah. I think he's been playing in the VFL Duday, so maybe it's his an opportunity for him.
Yeah,
But
he was a decent recruit a few years ago. It's been unfortunate, but yeah, look, they've got that thing to them this year where they're the reigning premiers going against tough. They're clearly not going all out because they sort of learnt last year that you don't need to be peaking now. And last year it wasn't out of design. They were just struggling.
Yeah.
But this year I think it's got a bit of design feel to it. Like they're not going full pelt.
Well, they won from 5th, didn't they?
Yeah, and they were out of the 8 for a lot of the year in the first half.
So they won from. We always say the top 4 is critical for the Lions and top 2, so they get the Gabba finals. And I don't think they're going to get top 2 this year.
Well, I think they're like, you know what? We know what we can do. We just need to do it at the right time, sort of thing.
They want to still finish top 4 though, and I think there's probably only one spot for them because Collingwood and Geelong, and then probably Gold Coast because they're outside at the moment, but they're 2 games that they haven't played, right? So they're actually much higher on the ladder. So there's really one spot for them. So it's they want to get kicking because I know they've done it once, but you can't win back to back from 5th position. That's insane.
It's hard enough to go back to back at the best of times.
Yeah.
I don't think they've got it this year.
So I think the main thing is like they need to get their form going to at least keep that top 4 spot because they've got the list and they've got the skill when it executes all together. But the last thing they want is to lose the top 4 spot and ruin their chance just off that. So,
yeah, I think they probably just need a bit of a refresh because they're the only team. Like, if you think of the amount of footy that's been played, so obviously they got all the way last year. Shorter, I don't think it makes that big a difference, but a shorter break compared to other teams. Plus, they haven't had a bye.
Yep.
So they were meant to have a bye early on in the year. They didn't get one. So them and Geelong are the only teams who have they go the longest without a bye. Considering, actually, wait a second. Oh yeah, no, but they're one of the teams that has the most time without one. So that's probably something that it doesn't help them. Geelong's kind of going fine without it, but Brizzy, it's starting to affect them, I think.
Geelong likes to rest random players, though. I don't think Lions do that.
True. I feel like if you ask Zorko to take a break, he'd be like, "Nah, stuff you, I want to play."
If he takes a break, he'll do a hammy.
No, you're probably right.
He needs to keep him warm.
Needs to keep going. Yeah,
100%. In regards to GWS, the tsunami's back, I would say, this week.
I said last week, bro.
Mate, it's like, and it pisses me off. The time where I go gauntlet on them, GWS gauntlet, they just, all of a sudden, we're a wave pool. Now, all of a sudden, it's, the tsunami's back.
Tell me, I said this last week. They are the one team in the league. It makes no sense. How could you go from like 0 vibe, 0 aura, scoring 40 points, can't get a goal?
Yeah.
The next week, every key forward's kicking bags. Ball
and
movement,
they're doing it
amazing.
at the Gabba as well.
At the Gabba, ball movement couldn't be better. Like, they're a weird team, and I always do, therefore, like, not overreact when they're playing poorly, because I'm like, the week I give up on them, they're going to win like this.
Yeah. Look, is it completely just the fact that Callahan comes back and Whitfield then goes back to halfback? Is that like the answer? The fact that they
must be partially the answer, yeah. And then everyone gets easier looks at it. A Cadman, I think that could have happened at any moment because he's always sort of thereabouts and never quite clunking him. And he was due a game like this, but who knows, man? I don't know.
But yeah, that's just it's costed me.
You probably just need a bit more information on the Giants, but they can go on a run. So
fair enough. Jump into
game of the round.
Game of the round.
Hey, I just want to say, look, flowers to the Bombers, man.
Look, we gave them a bit of credit, and we're like, that they'll have an honourable loss. An honourable.
Yeah, I did say it reeks of like a classic Bombers fought.
Brave loss.
Brave
That's
loss.
it.
Yeah, no.
But it just did not happen.
Turns out they're like, no, you know what, Dean? Watch this.
You know, they're not
hold my beer.
They're not copping a lot of criticism in the media this week though, because I've got a lot of injuries and they've kind of gone, oh look, young team, it happens.
Look, I've seen I always seem ultra negative when I talk like this, but I've literally seen this movie, I've read this book, because this is the Brad Scott thing to do. When the team is struggling, a few injuries and whatever, he amplifies the external look on the club in terms of what they're doing. So now they're rebuilding. Guess what? Every week, 2 debutants. And I know some of it's out of necessity, but he makes it. This is what he did when he cut the North vets off. It's like, no, we're rebuilding. Look, everyone. Everyone's gone now. It's all kids. Like, don't expect anything.
Look at Nathan Horvat.
Yeah, my hands are up now. So for me, it's the exact same thing. Some of it, very unfortunate. Other parts of it, I'm like, nah, this is all stuff I've seen before. I'm not buying all of it. And you know what? When you're rebuilding still, even like North all these years, these losses are unacceptable, rebuilding or not.
Yeah, well, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like in that first quarter, they were literally giving the ball to the Cats, easiest goals you'll ever score in your life. And credit to the Cats, they're like, no, we're going to enjoy this one. They didn't slow down. They're like, Jezza, here, have another couple.
Have another 6, mate.
Yeah, man. Him 6, Neil 4, Dangerfield with a couple as well, Dempsey with a couple. It's just,
I feel like the forward is back. Like the tall forward is back this season.
Big
Like
year for the tall forwards.
It's a big year for tall forwards.
yeah. How do you fit them all in the All Australians, man? How do you fit Cameron? How do you fit? I'm trying to think. Darcy. There's so many. I can't even think off the top of my head.
Well, Cameron's winning. He's on
Yeah.
44.
Yeah, so he has to go in.
And then it's Hogan 38. So Cameron's dominating.
Yeah.
And then Jamie Elliott, who they had to buy this round.
He'll get in.
Ben King.
Ben King, then Mitch.
Mate.
We'll talk about Mitch soon. But then there's Higgins, Thilthorpe, Gunston, Fogarty, Larkey, Kerno, Morris. I mean, they're all typically talls are the bigger, will have the bigger tally. But yeah, over the last couple of seasons, the smaller forward lines have kind of dominated. But it seems like, if you get the ball in to a tall with some pace, they can actually still kick goals. It's a bit of a reminder.
And I think a lot of teams, for me, just quickly thinking about it, a lot of teams are figuring out how to stop the third man up. Whether that's a ball movement thing or just putting more attention to like cancelling out the third man up. Because for a while, it was like, that's why talls couldn't kick goals. Because it was just like, yeah, here's this loose player just getting in the way. And now I feel like a lot of teams are isolating their forwards a lot better. I'm not sure tactically. I don't have the mechanisms behind my setup here at home to look into that like they do at Fox, but I'm sure there's something in that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, look, I think a lot of it would be the service and how you get the ball to them. I think it's being quicker about it because it doesn't give them a chance to set up and be like, okay, that loose guy, he's got to figure out, where am I going to put myself between, Shannon Neal and Jeremy Cameron. Where am I going to put myself? I need to be somewhere in between, right? Because those are the marking targets. If you make it quick, he doesn't even have a chance,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if you drag him out to the 50, someone leads to the 50 and takes the mark, and he's been let out there. All of a sudden, another quick kick in, and there it is. But
I mean, the pure efficiency of the Cats, the way that they play, like you're watching like that, it's like a training drill. I mean, the amount of goals they kick with just 3 kicks from the back line to the forward line is amazing. They do it all the time. I think they're the hottest team in the comp at the moment. I think they're really special. And like they've got the easiest run home going around, and most of it's at GMHPA as well. So there's your top 2.
They're primed for it. They're physically one of the most imposing teams in the league. They've got the experience. Now what they've got as well with Baz and Holmes is the X factor that they actually lacked for a while. They were always like super consistent, but lacked that spark. So
and Dangerfield comes back. I think this is his first game back.
He was back, yeah.
And he's just still amazing.
Just taking it easy, yeah.
just still so powerful for his age, man. It's
How is his hammies not tight, bro?
No, man. Look, if he does have tight hammies, you wouldn't notice. Let's be fair, you wouldn't know. It's like LeBron, like where it's just like that type of player where you still have pace and power, and you don't have to overexert. He's not really overly exerting himself, and I'm sure he could if he played midfield. I'm sure he'd be fine as well. But it's like not many dudes like that, man.
Yeah. The way that Geelong has reinvented their list. I mean, it was only a couple of years ago we thought, they failed. The Geelong meme of just recruiting a 35-year-old, everyone old goes to Geelong. Then they actually win the flag. And then a couple of years later, they're still in contention. And they've completely changed their profile in the way that they play. It's like, man, these guys are amazing.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of looking forward to at some point, like delving into their list and figuring out how it's so good and where do they get all these players from. To be honest with you, because you look at it. Bailey Smith he came in for a second round pick. Holmes was a pick in the 20s. Myers, I have no idea. Stewart, I know he was a
late
national,
pick.
Late pick. Or maybe a pick in the 30s, 40s, but he was national draft, I'm pretty sure. O'Connor's Irish. Cameron, they would have paid up for. And that's a fair one to go and pay up for. You know what I mean? A key forward who's dynamic and quick. Humphreys.
Yeah, he was a steal.
Know what I mean? Yeah, him still. Shannon Neal, I think he was a pick in the 30s or 40s. Atkins was, another mature age recruit, I'm quite sure. It'll
be interesting to see what they can get out of Jack Martin. I mean, if there's one team that could probably get him fit, imagine he has like a couple of good finals or something like that, and is the difference. That would piss me off.
Their
much.
recruiting is immense. Like even guys like Lawson Humphreys coming up last year out of nowhere. So their recruitment, their everything is great, and what it enables, like because they're so good all the time, their VFL team doesn't have the pressure on it, so they're just sitting there developing. Then when they do come in, they're more ready made. Whereas so many other teams in the league just forcing the young players to step up. and it's hard, you know.
They've obviously got great instruction as well, and pick players that have class and good footy spots, and that's why they have the ability to move the magnets around and give players exposure in different areas, and also rest players as well. It just always seems like they're composed and they just know what they're doing. So, I mean, that's a club.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, I feel like I bring this up every time Geelong are in a high moment, but I put him number 1 in our ladder predictor.
You did actually.
I did, and I think that
Looks pretty good now,
mate. Well, look, who would we have had first? Otherwise, number 2.
I think we had
Brizzy.
Lions.
I think Brizzy.
Yeah, Brizzy were up there. I don't know if we had Collingwood as high. I hope we had him top 4 or 5 at
No, I
least.
think they were like 6 or something.
Yeah, I think you put him. I think you went Carlton ahead of him.
No, I
I think
didn't.
You
Carlton was
sure?
8th.
You sure?
Carlton was 8th.
We'll revisit that at some point. But
Carlton will be where
I think
they
we had
finish the
Giants.
season.
Giants were up there.
the Giants were up there. Okay,
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
enough. And look, I'm sure they'll make their way back. They'll climb up slowly. Speaking of climbing slowly, that's North Melbourne.
Great seg.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel
Look,
last quarter?
in the last quarter, it was when you think that there's that little chance that you're going to win, of course, you're riding on every moment. But look, in its entirety, I look at this game and I look at the 2 weeks where they went to WA and we split, 1 win and 1 loss. The expected results, I would say, generally, we expected to be West Coast and we expected to lose against Freo. It's not so bad, to be honest with you. Like, I'm actually, I'm kind of chill with it. Like, this week we played well and we lost, I would say. Like, there was a lapse in the third quarter. Was it the third quarter or the second? Second.
Yeah.
A lapse in the second. Larky goes in with this amazing chase down tackle on Banfield that doesn't get rewarded, and then they end up kicking 3 or 4 goals in a row after that.
It was 4 goals in 5 minutes in the rain.
It was insane.
And they had started. It was kind of similar to the West Coast game where, although we were playing much better, in that they were missing shots, and I'm like, man, they're like 2 goals 6. This is a stealing game, written all over it.
Yep.
And I'm like, mad, this is great. We weren't punishing them as much as we should, but like, hey, whatever. I'm not complaining. We were fighting hard. And then it was just that spurt in the second. I'm like, what? Like, seriously, like 4 goals in a game where there wasn't many more than 4. For the rest of it. So that was the moment. Now, yes, the Larky tackle should have been a goal. There was mistakes. There was poor umpiring call. I'd say both ways, but obviously as a North fan, I'm looking at it like there was a few bad ones there for us as well. And then there's moments where you're like, you know what, hats off. Like that Josh Treacy mark at the end. We had a 3-on-1. He doesn't mark that ball. It's a goal.
Mate.
And we win the game, literally. And he comes off with an incredible intercept mark. Mind you, he wasn't kicking the goals, but his presence around the ground made Toby Pink look silly.
No, I was gonna say, like, I was trying to find how many goals did he kick. He kicked 0 goals, but his impact coming forward and the marking.
Yeah, in a game that wasn't clean, like they were struggling to mark it. It was wet. He was the only one. You're like, this guy's got like a vice grip on the ball. Great player. And the one at the end, like, wife was sitting here watching, and I'm like, I jumped up. I'm like, this is a goal. And then he marked it, and I'm like, that was fucking excellent. I wasn't even upset. I'm like, when you lose like a great moment from the other team, sometimes you have to say, shit, that's a great moment. Well done.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, and that's why I'm not too upset about this game, because you look at it and their best 2 players, Sarong and Brayshaw, were excellent, man. That's probably Sarong's cleanest game he's played, because there's been so many games this year where he's been accumulating, but he hasn't been clean with it. This game, let's have a look. Disposal 58%. That doesn't show what I was saying.
You're still very high up in the coaches' votes.
Yeah, and he should be. Brayshaw, I think he was in the first quarter. He did a chase down tackle. I'm just like,
he did a couple, man. He's crazy.
So it shows his intent with the footy and just the way he goes about it. Like tackling between them, 10 and 9. Between the 2 best midfielders who are classy and good at accumulating. There
was a few things. As a North fan, I'm like, please just play like this as much as you can for the rest of the year, because it won't happen every week. But the inside 50 tackles, how much was it in the end? Like over 20, 25 even?
I'll have to look at the stats. But like, I think they said at one stage we averaged like 7 for a game, and we had more than 10 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So
I think we had almost 30 or maybe around there for the whole game, which is an incredible number. To that point,
29 to 7.
We should have, and this is again whatever on the umpiring, but like there was a few that were holding the ball, and it should have been. Anyway, guys like Paul Curtis, insane. Cam Zerha, like you look at the stat sheet, you're like, this guy, what did he do? If you watch that game, you're like, how did this guy not die? The amount of times he put his body on the line and was like getting carried off, and then he's back on 5 minutes later. Like he's the bull for a reason, man.
Yeah, no, he's a warrior. And you know that 5 years, we gave him a 5-year deal, I'm kind of like, oh, why do we do that? Now I understand it, man.
He's earning
Dude's
it.
a heart
He's
and
earning
soul
it in
player.
like blood and bruise and like broken bones.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
and you know what? We got to give credit to a dude. And I'm going to ask you, are you ready to give credit to a dude, heart and soul, North Melbourne,
I know you were going to
former
say
captain?
Luke McDonald.
Yeah. Are you ready to give him some
He had
credit?
a great game.
Yeah.
He had a
I
great
think
game.
he's had a good game. He's had good games the last 2 or 3 games.
Decent season as well.
Yeah.
But why is that? And here's the thing, I agree with you. Great game. And
yeah.
then people will say, are you ready to stop hating on him? The point is with Luke McDonald, he has games, and he might do it against Carlton this week, where he'll go third man up against Curnow, and he'll give away a free, or he'll not impact the contest. So, like, you got to just take the good and the bad with him.
Yeah.
And this was the good, and I'm more than happy to say there was the good.
Yeah.
You know, guys like McKercher, back to half back, he's got his roll back. Wardlaw was his fierce on the ball. Like, there's a lot to like.
Yeah.
And this is
100%.
one thing I did want to point out just quickly is the ladder, right? So North is currently third last on 14 points, 3 wins and a draw. There's a logjam on like 20 to 24 points up until Carlton in 10th, right? And we've now lost by under a goal or thereabouts to Freo, to Port, to Essendon, which could easily have been 3 wins.
All teams within that range.
All teams within that range easily were the better team in all those games, should have won all of them. I'm not even going to say it was a close one, whatever. I genuinely think we were the better team, right? So that's 12 more points. We would be above Carlton. Now,
insane.
and the thing is, like, we did it and we're not. So, like, I'm not an idiot as well. But I'm just trying to say we've definitely improved. Now, the rest of the year is such an opportunity. Carlton this week. Then we've got Hawthorn Dogs.
Yeah.
Tough. Bloody tough. And then for the rest of the year, though, I'm honestly eyeing off another 3 or 4 wins. But this might have been one of them, and they've just pissed it away. So we'll see. But there's a lot more to like.
Why does it feel like you guys actually play good against Freo?
There are I don't know, yeah.
I feel like there's a good record. Is there?
Yeah, well, we did. I remember there was the Sheasel kicking the ball off the
second
line.
game where we won 2 in a row when Sheasel debuted.
Yeah.
Then we've had a few moments, and then at Marvel, was it last year or the year before, where we were up by like 35 and we lost?
Sounds about right.
We were there anyway. Now, look, certain teams we play better against. Now, we'll get to the tipping later. Like, I'm not tipping a North win against Carlton, as a little spoiler, but that's one team I desperately want to beat.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you guys have beaten us the whole time we've done the podcast.
No.
Don't know. Yeah, don't think so.
You wouldn't have.
The thing is, especially like in just regards to this season, that the Carlton game was the first game where I was genuinely
I
just
stopped watching footy after it, man. I quit.
devastated.
But that's because you guys thought you would chance that game.
But the thing is, we should have been, and that's what we're talking about right now. How this is a team that could be above Carlton.
Yeah.
You know, if certain results went that way, we're not. I feel like we shouldn't be in the position where we're like a West Coast or a Richmond anymore.
No.
And as a fans,
Yeah, we are on the ladder.
We are on the ladder. But as fans and as a club in general, we can't have that expectation anymore. We traded out a future first pick.
Yeah,
that's enough. That's
very
enough
fair.
of an intent to be like,
very
hey,
fair.
you guys, we need to be at least in that middle pack.
But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah. And in the alternate world where we win those couple close games, we're 10th,
Yeah.
you're looking at it like, okay, 10th, and then the picks are pushing back this year. You've given up pick 15 for pick 25. Sure.
Yeah.
And you got your guy Sooner, the guy that you liked. Everyone will sleep easy. But now if
Exactly.
you're giving Richmond a top 5 pick, it's like, hey, what's going on here? That's what I'd said a few weeks ago. So, look, I think what this conversation means is it's, you know, things are progressing and there's some frustration. The Carlton game, yes, we thought we might have won, but it was just the occasion, the Good Friday. The crowd was
occasion
there.
and
Yeah.
how bad of
It was
a
embarrassing.
loss. Oh, it was this.
It was honestly embarrassing. So
man.
let's see if they can respond this week. I'll be very interested to see.
Yeah.
But look, credit to Freo. North has a tradition of giving a guy their best game ever, Patrick Voss. Take a bow.
I don't know if it was his best game ever, but he did look good.
Clutch
He was-
goals. No, he was clutch, man.
fair
Like in the moments where gold was needed, he kicked 3.
True.
You know what I mean? So you have to give him his flowers there.
Yeah.
Um,
In general, you got to give them flowers. It's a young team, and they're very, very good.
Yeah.
Freo. So they're going to be good for another 5 to 3, 4, 5 years. They're going to be up there contending.
Yep.
So yeah, good on them. Jump into Port versus Melbourne now. Port, who ruined my gauntlet last week, they've bounced back, and it was a key forwards game. This one as well. Georgiadis was unplayable,
dear
man.
me.
7 goals, 4.
Yeah.
Not just 1, 7 goals, 4.
Could have had 10.
Yeah, and the thing is, there was a couple missed marks as well, so it was even more so a chance to get 10. Now, I think the interesting thing with this one is that it's a bit of a karma for Steve May. Because this is your defense, Steve May. I don't care if it was Turner playing on him or if it was you playing on him, because I know they alternated, right? And they had to because, one of them was starting to struggle. You can't let a guy get 7 on you like that.
Yeah.
And the week after, you paid out, Max Gawn, who is the only reason, maybe not the only reason, but he's a big part of why you guys were in the King's birthday game to begin with. I don't know. It's a bit.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Look. It's a bad look, man. Anyway.
The funny thing is, so I missed the first half of this one, but as I'm watching in the third and fourth, Stephen May had like 3. I'm not going to call them speckies, but like 3 contested marks where he had like knee/foot into the opposition, just one-on-one animal. I'm like, man, Stephen May's back. What a player! And I didn't realize at that point that Georgiades had a bag. I'm like. Then I'm thinking what you're thinking, like, okay, this is how it goes.
Well, was May even? I thought May was actually on Francis for a period of time.
Yeah, I think
they were rotating, like Mazza said.
Yeah, they I think they had to rotate in the middle of the game because it was like, okay, Georgiades is starting to kill Turner. Yeah, and look, to be honest with you, I think that's weird coaching to have May on Horn Francis. To be honest with you, I think you have May on Georgiades all day, but I don't know,
surely May's the deepest defender, not playing higher up. So that's good. That's good for Port if you can take May out of the depths of the forward line with Horn Francis, who comes back this week and was a bit rusty, but still, I mean, he kicked 3 points before he kicked the goal.
Yeah.
But the difference that this guy makes, and whenever Port plays well, it's usually because their big 3 play well.
Yeah.
And he's one of the big 3. So that adds to the victory. But typical, like Melbourne have lost 3 games in a row now, and they had their like little period where they resurged and they showed what their ceiling can be. Now they've lost to St Kilda, narrow loss to Collingwood. Now this loss, and basically any chance that they had to play finals is probably gone now. I mean, they're mathematically still very close to the teams that are trying to do it, but let's be real, right?
Yeah, we can't imagine them stringing.
How are they going to find a way to 8th?
Exactly.
When they have more inside 50s, they win the clearances against Port and they still lose.
Yeah.
In the most typical fashion, Melbourne fashion. So they've got some issues to work through.
They do. Interesting, midweek, they go and spend the big bucks on Cozzy.
Huge
and
money.
He was the talk of the town. His first half was electric.
He's an incredible player.
But I think he must have been injured because the second half he just
I think he
fell
got
off.
a knock, didn't he? I think he got a knock,
yeah. No, I don't know if it was glute.
Special player, man.
Yeah, but you can see with him, and I think he just sort of showed us, hey, this is why I'm worth what I'm getting paid. This is what I can do. And I think he needs to show that on a consistent basis for us to be like, okay, I understand why you're getting this money.
Yep. And this is the first time of his career where he's done that, this first half of the season. Wasn't it funny in the off season we had those comments where, I just got to bide my time at Melbourne. Like he's basically saying like, I'm gone. Well, 6 months later, he's signed a 7-year deal.
Like you got to be happy as a Melbourne fan, but like deep down, can we all see him like playing out that contract? He could easily in 2 years say, okay, now's the time, and Melbourne gets paid out. They get their picks because he's contracted and everyone's happy. But no, you take it at what it is.
Look,
right now.
That level of X Factor player, you need him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably the other players like the Olivers and Petrarcas that, look like their career's taken a big downturn, that they're the ones that they probably want to offload.
Yeah. Look, I think Track, he's had his decent games this year. This one was a bad one. He was the disposal was very bad. But that shout out to Bergman as well, man, because Bergman, was running with him.
He's had a good year.
Man, I was going to say, you said big 3 earlier. I think you got to add him into the big 4, mate. You got to add Bergman in there because
it used to be Houston that was the fourth of the big 4, and they need a replacement, don't they?
Yeah, I'm happy for it to be Bergman, man, because I think what he can do, just versatility wise, if he's playing as a tagger or if he's playing in the back line, he's a decent user of the footy as well. He's able to mark. I think.
Is he going to stay?
That's the question. Can they? And is Butters going to stay? Are they just going to go down?
Imagine Butters and Bergman leave.
Oh
my god,
it would be disgusting. But
the havoc.
Look, I think you have games like this, and you realize it's Ken Hinckley's last year. I think that should be enough to sort of convince those dudes. All right, we'll stick around because there's enough there. I think Sava Radigalea had his best game.
Yeah.
Probably in his career. But it's kind of it's good for them because it's like, okay, Georgiades had potentially his best game of his career. Sava played one of the best games of his career. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, we have a key defender, we have a key forward who can do something. it must make you feel a little bit better. The only thing I will say is that it is against Melbourne, and they don't really have key position. You know, they don't have the best key positions. I think it's impressive of Georgiadis, maybe less of Asava, because who's the key forwards you have to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think you'd be feeling good if you're at Port. It's a good win.
That's it. Baggers.
Here we go.
Georgie.
Good fixture.
But look, you guys have West Coast twice already.
Yeah.
And next week, based on ladder position, you got North for the second time. It's like kissed on the on the fixture.
The thing is like I don't even want to be kissed because like Michael Voss is the one that's been kissed.
Yeah.
Because every time it's about to fall off a cliff, we get like an Essendon, West Coast, North Melbourne run. And like if everything goes to plan, right, like, to odds, we win next week, and then we've got Port, who are not the best team. They're on our level. And so let's just say, for argument's sake, just for the narrative, we win the next two, and we've won 4 in a row. It's like, the Baggers are back, and we're maybe in the 8 or 1 game out. And then guess who we come up against? The Pies. And you just know what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that the next 2 games are in the bag, but you can just see the narrative of Carlton. That's what they do. They build it all up. Oh, we're back. We're mathematical chance. Let's do it. And then they just get destroyed, and the fans just go, there we go again. But look, this season I've been very down. Usually I'm a bit more. I'm always down, but but at least I'll get excited.
Of course, yeah.
I'll get excited.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
This season I've just been destroyed from round 1.
Yeah.
And I haven't recovered.
And you know what? They destroyed you in round 1.
Yeah.
That was their fault.
Yeah,
They killed the
Carlton
hope.
did. Carlton killed their season.
They killed the hope.
And no Carlton supporter is happy, and no Carlton supporter has said anything positive about Carlton this season, and I haven't said anything positive all year. It's just, it's been shit.
Well, you haven't even had Kerno's kicking 5 each week.
It's been a terrible season, and it's deflated me, just like you've been deflated about football, I've been deflated about football. Like, I'm just not interested in the team. I didn't even watch the full game, right? Now, you guys were saying, like, I was listening to you guys last week saying like it was a danger game. I'm like, you're taking the fucking piss. This is a danger game. If there's one team we ain't losing to, it's these Moppers.
We probably were half taking the piss.
Yeah. I can't remember.
West Coast is so shit. They are absolute trash. Like, they're pathetic. Yeah, you should have seen them in the first quarter. How many?
I saw it. Yeah. They were horrible.
Woeful team. And then they still managed to beat us for 3 quarters after that. And it's just like, man, just kill the team. Do something. Like, how can they play so well for 1 quarter? And then just do the most Carlton thing ever, which is kind of just like meander the game and just exist.
I think the Blues typically are just a half team. And you played your great half, you got your lead, and it basically just stayed there the rest of the game.
Yeah, look, it was just so boring to watch the second and third quarter that in the fourth quarter I just didn't bother. There's no chance we're losing. There was no risk.
Yeah.
But there was just no reason to watch.
Was Kerno, is he okay? Or was it precautionary?
So Kerno, and you guys have got us at a good time because Mackay has got this long-term injury out of nowhere on his knee. And that Hudson O'Keefe, who's second gamer, but a tall position, he's injured. And Kerno might not play next week. So our full forward's McGovern, and that's it. We don't have Kemp playing. There's no tools.
If Kerno, I'm calling it from now. If Kerno doesn't play, I might actually tip us.
Yeah.
That's fair.
What's interesting about the Carlton North narrative, it's always been like Mackay and Kerno just shitting on you guys. Yeah. And we're not going to happen this week. But whatever the case is, the narrative was like, we've got some injuries. And it seemed like the fans want Carlton to play that same way. But it almost seemed like the direction was to slow the game down after the first quarter, which is so disappointing. Because it's like, what are you doing? Slowing the game? Play that way. Play. Yeah. And the clumsiness, they were so much cleaner than West Coast and so much better than West Coast that's what gave that lead. But just, man, after they do their good shit, it's like the rest of the game, they can't complete any play. And even, we got a lead purely because West Coast is so bad. We'd had some really nice plays. We'd move the ball, and then we'd just miss a handball, and it'd be like the Benny Hill music, and we'd still manage to kick a goal because it's West Coast. But any other team, that's gone the other way for a goal.
Yeah.
So they're just terrible, man, and they shouldn't be terrible. But they're just a bad team, and I don't know what to say.
See, the thing is as well, you mentioned your fixtures friendly and all that. Like, if you go with the odds, you might actually win the next few as well.
Yeah.
So, to your point, percentages may be important. If you're actually going to be with a sniff of the 8.
Well, we've got a good percentage.
It needs to be better, as good as possible.
Yeah.
You threw away a couple of percentage points as well, you know?
Well, that's right. We threw away a big percentage against this team because we're not going to get an opportunity like that again. And we do have the second best percentage outside of the 8, I think, the Dogs.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And no one else is really close to us and the Dogs, right?
Yeah.
So any of the teams like Port, Essendon, Sydney, Saints and Melbourne who are all the 24 to 20 points with us, I mean, they're going to have to jump us on percentage.
Yeah, that's true.
And none of those teams are playing good football.
They're not going anywhere.
So the
near.
worst part is that Carlton is the one bad team that should be making the play for the 8, right? And there's still a chance. And it's like, how is this team still a chance? They've been so poor, and they're still there, which goes to show how much more potential they actually have as a team. And they just can't put it together. And we just think, why can't they put it together? And we'll have a couple of good games, and then we'll lose to the team that, you know, is too good for us, and then we'll do the whole thing again. It's just miserable. So, whatever, man. Ross will go at the end of the year.
Nah, fair enough. Look, a couple little shout outs to players. I like Chincotta, the way he played. I like the way that he plays with energy in the forward line, and he's got that, you know, he's got that dog in him type
he
player.
does definitely
So
have
I
the
did like him. On the West Coast end, I want to talk. Jua is
Rising
looking,
star.
Yeah, so 24 kicks, 2 goal assists. The disposal efficiency, it isn't there, and you can see it that he's, you know, he needs a bit of time to clean up that disposal. But the fact that he's in those positions and he's providing drive, 800 meters gained is nothing to scoff at. And one of the best debuts in a long time, in a very long time, was Tom McCarthy, man. Dude's clean. 94% disposal efficiency for a dude who's playing Richmond VFL, you know, a few weeks ago, you know. So, great. So he was the number 1 pick in the mid-season draft. Perfect for what they need, because I think they need distributors in general. Like, all of a sudden, you know, you've trialed Dua there, you've got him. Marich is moved to the wing, but there's another dude who has a decent, you know, bit of kicking there.
And he was like a mid-season pickup as well.
He was a few. I think it was last year or the year before.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so you know that's kind of cool for them. But yeah, they're
so far away, man.
Oh, the midfield is so bad, and they just.
Well, did Allen get injured? And then you've got Waterman out.
Yeah,
Allen's injured.
McGovern's out.
I'm not sure if the news with Allen was positive or not, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. Actually, if you can,
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah,
Avoids worst case scenario.
Oh, okay, so it's not an Achilles then.
In any case.
Yeah. Look, put him on ice. I was listening to SCN earlier. They said put him on ice. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
Well, if ice is correct, then he might leave. This could be it.
I think they want him gone, man. If they're going to get pick 2,
yeah,
surely.
No, I agree. If you go pick 1 and 2,
he's not worth pick 2.
Yeah, the combo. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it's like you can pick. I'm trying to think. Is there any Western Australian guys? I think there's like Fred Rodriguez.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I know I was draft guy last year. This year, without North having their first round pick, I don't have the stomach for it. It's made me sick.
Fair enough.
I'll get into it later because there's obviously second and third rounders. You know, I want to get around it again. But for anyone wondering, like, Dino doesn't know anything about this draft right now.
There you go. I think the only Western Australian dudes, I know Cody Curtin is there, so the brother of Dan Curtin, but I don't know if he's pick 1 or 2.
Wes Wally as well.
And Wes Wally. So, you know, but it's funny because I was reading a little thing about, you know, how different draft players have played. And in the recent game against like South Australia, he's like he wasn't overly present, and I'm just like, what was Wes Wally went missing? You know what I mean? Like you couldn't find Wally.
Joke wrote itself.
Yeah, nah, bro. It's these parents gave him a hell of a name. But anyway, I think we'll go into the tips.
Yep. So
until next week.
We got Thursday night. Loving the Thursday nights continued for longer this year, by the way.
And this is a sucky Thursday night.
But it's Freo versus Essendon. Look, Freo.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun seeing, you know, another Essendon, you know, drubbing.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Good game. Hopefully a good game on Friday. Geelong versus an out of form Brizzy. But this is second versus third, so that's hard to go against Geelong at GMHBA though.
Yeah, I'll tip Geelong. Carlton,
you got a tip on Geelong?
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Next game, Carlton versus North. Look,
you got to go Carlton,
at
man.
the G.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, is that the G?
Yeah, it's at the G.
Oh, if it's wet weather, we're finished.
We can't play in dry weather, bro.
Look, I mean, I think real talk, like Kerno is a big out if he doesn't make it. We'll play a smaller forward line, but our smalls are terrible. What I will mention from the game about Carlton is you mentioned Chincotta, but Fantasia came back for his first game of the season, really made a difference, and Williams came back as well. So they just need to string another game together, but they'll make a big difference because at least they're class. Look, tip Carlton. It is what it is. See what happens.
Yeah. Look, I need tips. I need tips the what's it called? I need to go the anti-pod for tips. So I'm going to be tipping North.
Bro, I'm like 20 points behind the leader.
Bro, I'm probably worse.
Forget antipod, bro. Like, just don't tip anymore.
Bad.
Look, honestly, if Kerno's not playing, that changes a lot in my mind because we've got Common out, so it's Pink and Logue and maybe Callan Dawson. Like
all of a sudden, you don't feel as bad about those guys getting exposed.
Yeah, I just said like Patrick Voss kicked 3. Like Tracy wasn't kicking the goals, but he was marking it. So like Kerno will do whatever he wants if he plays. But if he doesn't play, I wonder
what they do with the structure if it doesn't
might
play.
get confident.
Does Pidnet come in and TDK has to go forward?
I think Pidnet might come in, because they need a second ruck.
No one can handle Sherry alone. So
Lewis Young might come back.
Oh yeah.
By the way, actually, I didn't
Worst
mention that.
player ever.
Tristan Sherry against Darcy and Jackson. Ask anybody if they're talking about Luke Jackson that game or Darcy that game. It was all about how good is this Tristan Sherry guy.
Well, actually, that was a pretty good matchup last time with Cherry and DeConning.
We were there, and Cherry and DeConning.
Yeah, but the Carlton.
Sorry, I thought you were going to talk about the Jackson and Sherry game last year. They both played great, but Jackson was excellent.
Yeah, no, I remember that last year where
This
Jackson
year
had his
he
game.
had almost no impact.
Yeah.
So anyway,
shows had amazing Sherrys.
Yeah. Well, DeConning and Sherry is like opposites, but equally like amazingly unique in their own way.
I think the last one was quite a fun matchup. So we'll see what happens this week.
I'm pretty sure last time, I think the DeConning family got a bit upset that Sherry was playing too rough.
Yeah.
So
Sherry injures you and beats you. He doesn't. He's not content with just beating you. He's a rough.
Don't injure my player, man.
He's a bruiser.
We need him.
He's a bruiser. He's a bit of a Shane Mumford, but with some actual but better. Like he's literally
not reckless, but he's just as brutal.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's a controlled.
Yeah.
It
is.
Rage, wrath. We'll go. The wrath of Sherry.
The wrath of Sherry.
Anyway,
all right. So
you're going. Who are you going with?
I'll go if Kerno's out. For the sake of the visual, the graphics here on the screen, let's go North, baby.
Let's do it, man. All right, Port versus Sydney.
Port.
Yeah.
Well, Port always beats Sydney, so Port.
Yeah,
fair. Collingwood versus the Saints. It's a pretty easy one there.
Off the bye.
Collingwood.
Mm-hmm.
GWS versus Gold Coast. So it's at Engie Stadium.
Look, is this going to be the lowest crowd ever? What's this?
Possibly.
Well, they're both. This is probably the first time they've both been good teams. So if ever they're going to get a half decent crowd,
I hope this one.
I'm going to go Suns off the bye, fresh.
Look, okay. I'm going to go Suns as well because that's
really.
It depends. I'm going to have a look at AFL tipping and see because people are probably going to go the better odds with GWS. I need to go whoever people aren't going for. That's the only way I can tip these days.
I'll go Giants after that performance.
And with that in mind, I'm going to tip Richmond against the. Nah, doggies should smash them.
Yep. Okay,
man. We'll talk about who the dogs beat this week.
Saints.
Saints.
Now they got the
Saints, and that's not a bad fixture for them.
Bit of a kiss for them as well. Hey, just for the people that listen this far, can I tell a story from my travels? I wanted to make sure because I was also in Tasmania, but last week you were there on the weekend.
Hobart or Lonnie?
Hobart. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So there's two stories. One on the way there, one on the way back. On the way there, right? 5 a.m. I took the red-eye flight. 5 a.m. Uber, 6 something flight. Anyway, my Uber driver. It's 5 a.m. in the morning, right? His window is halfway down, and it's like -1 degrees here. It wasn't that cold, but like 5 degrees. Bro had the window halfway down, and he's driving not with his hands on. What's the usual rules like? 2 and 10.
Yeah, whatever.
He's like the opposite. He's holding under and reverse hold of like 5 and 7.
I love that, man. That's
leaning.
That's how I drive.
Leaning forward, and he's like this, driving like that. If you're not on YouTube right now, you need to be on YouTube. He's driving like this, and then he's on the lines of the freeway, and then every time he'd hit the little things, he's like swerving like with his arms, just like that. I was panicking, man. It's only a 15-minute drive.
It's like he's a T-Rex driving. Like that's what it looks like. The way you're doing that.
T-Rex driving with the window. So that tells me A, he can't drive. B, he's tired because he's got the window down with cold hair in his face trying to keep him awake. And he's swerving. Man, 15 minutes have never felt so long. Anyway.
Well,
did you give him 5 stars or just left the rating?
I don't give ratings, but
fair enough.
Out of respect, maybe I should because that was like a 1.
That's 1.
Bad. Thank you.
You've had a couple of bad experiences recently.
Well, that was like a safety thing. That was bad. Anyway, and then on the way back, so I'm on the plane, and I'm in row 8, right? And you know some planes where it doesn't have the number of the aisle so clear, like is this 8 or 9 or 7? Like where am I here exactly? Anyway, so it was a bit of confusion. I just took the punt. I was the first one there. I'm like, I'm 8. Yeah, this is 8. Anyway, this guy is walking past, plane's filling up, and then he looks at me and goes, "Oh, sorry, mate. What aisle are you in?" And I'm like, "Oh," I'm thinking to myself, fair enough. You're also confused. Let me just clarify. I'm in 8. And he's like, "Oh, I'm lost. What, do you know how to get to 2?" And I'm like,
wait, from 8 to 2.
bro, how are you on the front of the plane? The lady, you've looked at your ticket by now, surely. You've probably booked it. You've looked at it. You've checked in. You've looked at this ticket probably 20 times. The lady has said to you, "Yep, just on your right," or whatever, your left. And bro walked past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then he gets to 8 and asks me, and I'm trying to be polite. I'm like, "I think you're back at the front." How do you mess up 2?
Bro, that's
How do you mess up
that's the
2?
thing I'm trying to think. Does he not know how numbers work? Where did he think it started from?
Bro,
From negative 15?
If you're like, "Oh, mad, I'm aisle 2," you're like, you don't even need to show the lady. You're just like, 1, 2, I can see it. It's right. That's my seat. There it is. There.
Just count it on your fingers. You'll be right.
How do you get lost?
Oh,
Fuck, people that don't fly often lose their heads at airports, man.
Nah, look, I've told you my situation at the airport with the English
that
lady
lady,
cracked it
yeah.
at me. It's like, you can't cut the line. The reason people cut lines is because you got to deal with dumb people like that who don't use initiative. You know what I mean? They have no awareness of the airport environment.
Yeah, people that don't fly often, they're like lost babies at the airport.
Nah, legit.
They don't know what they're doing.
They need their hands held.
How do you skip
big time.
2 and then get to 8 before realizing you've messed up, bro?
That's shocking, bro.
That's insane.
Shit. Anyway,
Did you just have check baggage, or do you have just carry on baggage? Or
this time around, I had some work stuff, so I checked it.
yeah,
But
was
usually,
it Jetstar?
Yes, it was.
So I was there, and I only had carry on,
Okay.
and I was over 7 kilos,
Of course.
and it was fine on the Virgin flight, but on the Jetstar on the way back, they weigh it.
Oh, they wait.
Oh.
Yeah,
They weigh it hard, and so like me, my brother, like 6 other people, and we were all like in the airport with the flap of the bag open, like, "Hey man, you take my shoes, you take my things, so we don't pay."
Yeah.
Like it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And then so I get on, I'm walking up the plane on the tarmac, and there's a girl vaping behind me. And then
Walking on the tarmac.
bro, not on the tarmac, walking up the thing to the plane. She's just like she's like 1, 2 away from the door, and she's just got the vape. And the lady, the Jetstar lady's like, "Oi, what are you doing? You know how to vape?" Calling there's someone vaping, and then I get onto the plane. I wasn't vaping. I'm chilling, and the pilot goes, "Hello everyone, I'm your pilot today. I've just caught 2 people vaping on the tarmac, which is a federal offence, and I have the right to refuse their entry, but Collingwood just won by 1 point, so I'm going to let them in."
Seriously?
That's insane. That is insane.
I'm like, bro,
Oh.
what is
Fair
going
play
on?
to the pilot. That's banter. But like,
Yeah.
wow.
That's banned.
It's a federal offence.
that
He's
is-
pulled up. It's a federal offence, but Collingwood won, baby. That's
Yeah. He's like, "Look, I'm in a good mood. The Pies just won by 1 point." But like,
That's
the
classic.
Jetstar, I mean, look, vaping is insane in the time, but like
Yeah.
the process to get into this airport, I mean, it's Tassie. Like, we're checking our bags. Everyone's got their bags open. There's someone on vaping. Like, this shit's
Yeah.
insane.
yeah, bruh.
Yeah, they're big
Just
on
get me to Melbourne, please.
They're big on get your laptops out of the bag in Tassie as well. Like
Yeah.
in Melbourne, they're chill about it. Like, yeah, keep it in. Tassie, they're like everything out. Empty your
Yeah.
bags.
There you go. See, that's why no football team in Tassie.
Oh,
you know,
man.
if I want to be traveling, then
They're always going to be late.
They're going to be getting the laptop out your bag. Like, come on, man.
I do feel sorry. Just one more quick thing. Of the staff on the tarmac, I do feel sorry for them because no one can hear them with the plane sort of half on. And people, did you see that when you get off at Tassie, there's the sign that says "Come back here" in like red neon?
Yeah.
Weird message. Anyway, people always taking photos of that. Like, you know, when you land in a new place, you're like, "Oh, look, you know," straight away the photos start. And the people are trying to like yell with like
No phones.
balaclavas on at like 6 a.m. in the morning, like,
Yeah.
"No phones."
Those face warmers.
No one can
Yeah.
hear them. By the time they've said anything, the person's taking their photo and they're off. But like, just don't take your phones out on tarmacs, guys. Like, seriously. What's there to take a photo of? It's an aeroplane. Cool.
That's
Come on.
fair. That's fair. Look, I think airplanes are worthy of photos. Not gonna lie, airplanes kind of cool.
Go on Google,
and
man.
the
It's
sign.
fine.
Yeah. You can post a Google pic on your Instagram. That's fair. Anyway, I think we'll finish it off there. Thank you guys. You got a little bit of Enjoyer's Law there at the end. Yeah.
it.
Thank you guys for listening. See you on
Thank
the
you.
next one.
Bye.
Go Roos.